بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Assalamu alaikum. Today it is Tuesday, the 10th of May 2022, and in our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, this is broadcast number 310, and in it we are looking at chapter 2, verse 100, Al-Baqarah, verse 100, use of its words in the Holy Quran. These broadcasts are brought to you by the Lahore Ahmadiyya movement, which was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib taught that although other Muslims say that after the Holy Prophet Muhammad, another prophet can come, this is incorrect. The Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the prophets, and no prophet can now come, an old one or a new one. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claimed that in accordance with the Hadith, he was the reformer, as promised by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that from time to time reformers will be sent by Allah. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's distinction was that he was the one to whom in other hadith the Holy Prophet Muhammad referred as the Messiah and Mahdi. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad also taught that non-Ahmadi Muslims hasten to call each other kafirs. But this is forbidden by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another reciter of the kalima that that person is a heretic, is a kafir, then this decree of heresy falls upon the person issuing it. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad also taught that people believe that the Holy Quran is incomplete and that some prophetic revelation has been missed out from inclusion in the Holy Quran. And some that is in the Holy Quran is cancelled, abrogated. But this is untrue because Allah says in the Holy Quran that He has revealed it and He shall protect it. So it cannot be true. And of course, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad taught that jihad is a fundamental duty of every Muslim. But jihad as defined by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, who when returning from fighting said that Muslims are returning from the minor jihad to the major jihad, and then went on to explain that the major jihad is jihad bin nafs, a struggle to control your own desires, your greed, and so on, your temptations, etc. But of course, if you're attacked with the sword, then you will defend yourself. You will defend your country or your religion with the sword. So with that, let us turn to the Holy Quran, Al-Baqarah, verse 100, as I said. Sorry. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أوكلما عاهدوا عهدا نبذه فريق منهم بل أكثرهم لا يؤمنون. Is it that whenever they make a covenant, a party of them cast it aside? Nay, most of them have no faith. And yesterday we looked at the word farikum, and today we look at the words minhum bal aksaru, and with that, hum la can be mentioned in a few seconds. I was hoping to do yominun as well, but that requires quite a lot of explanation. So we leave that until tomorrow. So let me go to my notes and have a look. Minhum has two segments, min preposition and whom pronoun. This is followed by bal, which is what's called a retraction pronoun, I think. Nay. It is negating what's coming after. And then we have la, which simply means no, and so on. Oh, sorry, after bal we have aksaruhum and then la. So aksaruhum has two parts, noun aksar and hum pronoun. Its root is kaf, fa, ra. So these are the two segments, and words based on these three. There are 10 words which appear in the Holy Quran 167 times. So, and it means numerous, many, it's a count, but it also means increase and this kind of thing, acquire more, multiply, etc. And let me my notes have got out of order as usual. Here we are, I think. And it means plenty, abundance, and it's the antonym, the opposite of shortage, killat. And for example, in chapter 23, verse 70, it says, وَأَكْثَرُهُمْ لِلْحَقِّ Qarihun. And most among them dislike the truth. And as I was saying in the Urdu broadcast, at least two words in here, aksar and haq, are common Urdu words. And that's the point I always make, that, okay, it may be difficult for English-speaking people or, Europeans to understand the Holy Quran because they have to learn a whole new alphabet. But those who speak Urdu or Farsi and so on, should be easy for them. Or in chapter 2, verse 249, it says, Kum min fi'atin qalilatin ghalabat fi'atan kathira. And sometimes it happens that a small party overcomes a large party. And that's what I meant when I said that according to the Holy Quran, Qillat and Kasrat, they are opposite. Qalilatin, a small group, a few. Sometimes a few overcome many. Kasiratan. So you can see that the principle in Arabic language is to try and justify the meaning of a word from the way it has been used in the Holy Quran. And one way is to see which word is used to show the opposite. Qalila, few. Kathira, many. Sometimes few in numbers overcome many. And in chapter 4, verse 1, وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. And from those two, he produced in abundance men and women and spread them over the earth. This is, of course, referring to Hazrat Adam and his wife. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, chapter 2, verse 109. And many among the people of the book want this. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ, كَثِيرٌ, many. But this use here, the use that I've discussed has been simply in terms of numbers, a smaller group and a bigger group. But it also means to try and outdo someone else in status, in wealth, in position, and so on. For example, chapter 102, verse 1 says, Alhaakumut takathur. And people, your for much has made you full. Now, this is generally translated as abundance of wealth, but as I said, it could mean status, honor. You know, it's like people who donate to charity. And you think, well, that's a very good thing. What's bad about that? But it's their intention. What's the intention? Well, if I give a lot to charity, then what will happen is that, I will be nominated in the Queen's Honours List for something or other. A CBE or OBE or whatever it is. So it's increasing your status, raising your status, that has made you forget what the real meaning of life is. And an interesting one is chapter 108, verse 1. Inna a'tayna kal Kawthar. God says to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, we granted you abundance of good. Let me see how Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Ali has translated. Yes, it's exactly what he says. Surely we have given you abundance of good. Now, the thing is this, that lots of people say that Al-Kawthar is actually a river in the heavens. And this is saying that the Holy Prophet will be granted that river. But you see, such interpretations I find dangerous, because there's no justification in the Holy Quran for such interpretation. So this is, the use of the word Kawthar to mean good, that the Holy Prophet was granted an abundance of good. Now, what does good stand for? Obviously, we've talked about abundance in terms of numbers, in terms of money. And yes, Islam doesn't deride earning of money or resources and all this kind of thing, as long as you use it for the benefit of the community and humanity. A number of companions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad were very rich. His first wife, Hazrat Khadija, she was very rich. And then Hazrat Usman was extremely rich. But history tells us that in Jew Muslims had difficulty accessing good clean water, because the only source of water was owned by a Jew, and he demanded extortionate prices. The coming of Muslims, the population in Medina increased, increasing the demand for water. And he had control of supply, so he increased prices, as any businessman would. And so people put this to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and that's a solution needed to be found. And Hazrat Usman heard about this, and he went and he purchased that well, and he donated it to the community. He said, from tomorrow, it's yours, and no one is going to ask you to pay for water. It's free. Now, Hazrat Usman could only do that because he was a rich man. And that is the point that Islam makes, that it's not against Islam to seek wealth, as long as you use it for the benefit of your community or humanity. Maulana Abadullah Sindhi, in his explanation, says that Al-Qasr, the abundance of good that the Holy Quran talks about, that was granted to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, actually it means the Holy Quran. Because there is nothing, he argues, that there is nothing that has as much good in it as the Holy Quran itself. So that's what that phrase means by saying this. And I found that interesting, and I thought, let us apply it to the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad when we think about it in those terms. If we look at the Holy Prophet's time in Makkah, a very small portion of the Holy Quran had been revealed there. And the Holy Prophet faced great difficulties. As you know, Muslims were tortured. Muslims had to leave Makkah and go and seek sanctuary in Abyssinia. I think it's today's Ethiopia, where a Christian king gave them sanctuary, gave them asylum, political asylum. Others could not escape, they were tortured. The story of Hazrat Bilal, that he was being brutally tortured, and the Holy Prophet could not bear to hear his cries. And Hazrat Abu Bakr also saw this, and he could not bear it. Hazrat Abu Bakr at that time was a very rich person. He went and he purchased Hazrat Bilal and set him free. He went and asked his owner how much, and the owner said this amount, and he said, there you go. He didn't haggle, he didn't do anything. Now you see, again, this is using your wealth for a good cause. Anyway, to get back to the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, some Muslims were actually martyred in Makkah. But then the Holy Prophet moved to Medina, and more of the Holy Quran was revealed. And the more people acted on the Holy Quran, the better the situation of the community became. As you know, gradually, first Muslims defended themselves successfully against the efforts by the Quraysh of Makkah to eliminate them. And then from there, they started to preach their message to other tribes of Arabia, and more people started joining. Isn't it interesting that the more Quran that was revealed, the more Muslims acted upon the Holy Quran, the more people came from all parts of Arabia and joined them. And this is the crux of the matter. This is what people don't understand. That all of Quran, all of God's message, all prophetic revelation has now come to us. Okay? Now, what will be the abundance of good? And there's abundance of good called the Holy Quran, but we can make it even better and take it further by actually acting on it ourselves. Just like the Holy Prophet Muhammad and his companions, Rasulullah Ta'ala, they acted upon the Holy Quran, and people came and saw, and they said, wow, this is wonderful. You know, We want to join you. This element is now missing. The Holy Quran is, wrapped in silken covers and put on top of the cupboard so that nothing must touch it, and people go through all kinds of elaborate procedures. Yes, you should be clean. They go through elaborate procedures of cleansing and so on and so forth, and then they take it out of the silken covers and kiss it and touch their foreheads with it, or and so on. And then they recite it, which is all very good. But the main element of the exercise is missing, which is to remind ourselves of the message of the Holy Quran. What is it that it's trying to communicate to us? And that is what that abundance of good is. That you have the Holy Quran. If you act on it, then you will be successful in this life and in the hereafter. Why? Because you'll become model citizens of this planet. People will know and comment upon how you always speak the truth, how you're always honest, etc. And in this day and age and in our time, there have been Ahmadis, members of our Jamaat, who've seen this and done this. And I have seen them do this. In 1953, I think it was, that Dr. Alabakhsh was offered a huge prize, 200,000 rupees, which would be like £2 million. In a case, all he had to do was just say, I've tested this person's clothing and blood on it is not human. He just had to add the word not to the conclusion to get that £2 million. But he refused. He said, no, it's a lie. I'm not going to do it. And similarly, there are many other instances of such noble behavior. There was a comment made by a police officer many years ago, and he was sitting in company, and there was one Ahmadi present there. All the others were non-Ahmadis. And people didn't know that this person was an Ahmadi. It was a sort of gathering of at a wedding or something. And this police officer said, you know what saddens me about Pakistan? And people said no. And the police officer said, well, of all the heads of forensics, they were called chemical examiners in those days, the two who've been honest have both been Ahmadis. Have both been Ahmadis. And then people said, and who were they? And then he mentioned Dr. Alabakhsh, and there was another doctor who followed Dr. Alabakhsh, who was also a Lahori Ahmadi. But it's a matter of pride and responsibility as well for our Jamaat, that although people regarded us as kafirs, they were forced to admit that members of this organization had actually understood the Quran and the abundance of good that it talks about. They're gathering that. Yes, in terms of this world, Dr. Alabakhsh wasn't a rich man, but it was the richness of his character. He could stand up anywhere and people would believe what he said because they knew he never lied. And that is what the Quran wants to get you to. But that can only happen. That will only happen if we first understand the Quran and then act upon it. With that, I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep all of you safe and sound and free from harm. Inshallah, we'll meet tomorrow and finish our discussion of the words of this verse of the Holy Quran. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.